Welcome to Cowgirl Talk, where we empower you to live authentically through real food, real talk, and real life, brought together by our love of cows.
We're your hosts, Emily, a farmer and rural-ish girly from Wisconsin.
Haley, a food blogger and dairy farmer's daughter from New York.
And Emily, a dairy lover and personal trainer living in Florida.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Cowgirl Talk. We are on episode 6, which we cannot believe. This is flying by, as well as the rest of the year. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way, but this season is flying by. Episode 6, we have a really fun topic ahead of us, and we have a really fun guest joining us later, too, that we're really excited to dig into all of the holiday, but also agriculture things. This is a bit of a unique agriculture perspective for us. Nothing we have a lot of familiarity with, so we're super excited to have our guest insight, and it's super pertinent to holiday season. I know we're all dabbling into Thanksgiving, Christmas vibes, so this episode is going to encompass all of that with an ag chat. So first, let's dive into our happy crappies. How's this week going for you guys?
This week is going well, and I'm also just so excited for today because I'm going to be learning a lot today, and I'm just ready to gain all the understanding of things cranberries. And for me, though, in terms of happy crappy, tomorrow I'm getting my hair done. So by the time that this airs, I guess you could say, my hair might be a little bit darker and a little bit shorter, which I'm so excited about. Ever since I chopped my hair off, even just when it's still short, it feels long. And so I'm in my short hair era, and I'm vibing with it. And also, as this one, I kind of talked about this last week, but again, this Amanda Bynes video thing that I have, this thing is just still going viral. It's now at 10 million views on Instagram. But more than that, more than going viral, Kendall Toole, a Peloton instructor, commented on my video. And funny thing, Ruben was the one who pointed it out. He was just scrolling through my comments and he said, the girl from Peloton commented on your post. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And so I just freaked out for a second. I commented back, of course. She's probably never going to see it, but I just thought that was so cool. Even if people think that I'm Amanda Bynes for the rest of my life, I've had some pretty cool people comment on it. But other than those two happies, I guess one of my crappies is, of course, I don't want to say this because I feel like it's going to be for all of us. It's dark right now, right? It's not that late. It's already dark by the time we were recording this. So but I've also just been feeling a little bit anxious this week. And that's just, I think, with travel, we're doing big sale for our coaching and just a lot of things towards the end of the year. And of course, I think the changing of the seasons, but just trying to really be intentional about certain things, phone time, caffeine, to try to manage that. But just being honest, I've just been feeling a little on edge lately.
That is so cool. I saw Kendall commented and I thought you would have seen it. Otherwise, I guess I would have said something too. But that is amazing. She's my woman crush. She's so hot. And I would also freak out if Cody Rigby commented too. That should be your next comment goal, is to get the other stellar Peloton instructor to comment.
I'll just get everyone.
Right. To echo the getting dark out, it is currently 4:57 p.m. for me, and I'm sitting where I usually sit while we're recording these, and I look out over our field, and it is pitch black out there, and so I just have artificial light in front of me, and I hate it. How are your happy crappies, or how's your week going?
My happy is, while I'm wearing it, if you're watching on YouTube, is I launched my new merch this week, which was super fun, and a lot of fun projects going on with my brand that I'm loving. A lot of holiday content coming out. I'm starting my Thanksgiving series, so that's super fun. And yeah, it's just, actually, I'll echo Emily, the darkness. I'm feeling anxious this week too. I don't know why. And it's like I'm relying more on caffeine because it's dark, and that makes me anxious. I'm trying to avoid alcohol. Alcohol makes me super anxious too. Like the next day, that night, it's weird. So just being cognitive of my surroundings and what I put into my environment. Because yeah, feeling anxious. I think it's because we have a lot going on, and our circadian rhythm is completely effed.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I kind of have a flip side for my happy compared to you guys' crappy, and I was thinking today is, well, I guess it's similar, Haley, to your happy that you had last week of the things that are coming up. And like I feel like I am starting to get more into the person like I'm supposed to be and doing the things that I'm supposed to do. Like I have my clients honed in that I do social media work for. And then I have, obviously, we are busy at the scale house and in the grain or during harvest and stuff right now. But I just feel like I'm like figuring my shit out, which is exciting. And like today, I wrote down a long list of winter projects I want to do, and I kind of have an idea or envisioning what my winter is going to be and ways that I can make it so it's super productive and to set me up for more success. And I'm just like, I'm feeling like things are going in the right direction, but who knows, in like a week I'll probably be like, well, this is all fucked. So
but you might as well embrace it right now while you feel this way.
Like embrace the happiness at the moment. But then my crappy is that so this is very like what's the word for it? I was literally just thinking of it earlier. Very vain of me to say, I feel like, but my skin has been going through it the last 2 weeks, and it is making me so upset. And I understand like imperfections, like I'm the type of person that's like, you are beautiful, blah blah blah, all the things. But I had my skin and my skincare figured out, and it was like going good. And then the last couple of weeks, my skin has just been like going through it, like making me so mad. And I just started like a new skincare regimen and stuff to hopefully get it fixed. But it's just frustrating me because I'm like, you were going so good.
It's so frustrating. Skin is so frustrating. It's like, get your shit together, please, on my behalf.
Yeah, it's just frustrating, like I said, because I had it, like, it was figured out, and then I think it's just, like, the changing of the seasons. I'm outside in the wind, in the dust and dirt all the time right now, and so that's just, like, wrecking havoc on my skin. So excited to dive into our episode and our guest. We have Amber, who will be joining us, and she is a cranberry grower, cranberry farmer here in Wisconsin. She's a 5th-generation cranberry grower. And we are going to have her come on and share all things Cranberry Chats is what her Instagram is, and just help us get to understand this fun Thanksgiving food a little bit more. We have our special guest on here. Here is Amber and her cat, Winnie. Amber, can you and Winnie tell us a little bit about yourself and what you all do?
Yeah, Winnie is the queen of my house. She's a 10-year-old long-haired calico cat. But I am a 5th-generation cranberry grower in a little town of Wisconsin. And our family has been growing cranberries and nothing else since 1918. And my husband and I, my husband married into the family farm. There we go. And he had no prior farm background before he met me. So when he married in, I think he saw all of our hunting land that we have, and his eyes just were like, deer, deer, deer. And he's a big hunter, so he got really excited. So I think that's kind of what lured him into this relationship. But he's working out here now full time alongside myself, both my parents. I have a cousin that works on the family farm, and then a handful of other employees. So it's a very involved family farm that we have, and it has been, again, for over 100 years. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of family, which if you have a family farm, I'm sure you know what that's like. But it's a great dynamic, and my parents are just right in my backyard. My grandma is right across our driveway, so we're all very close. We're all right here.
Okay, so I know you just posted a reel about this today, I believe, but was being a cranberry grower, coming back to the family farm, always your plan? Walk us through basically what your reel shared.
Yeah, so growing up, I was really involved, well, not like really, for a high schooler, I was involved, my summer jobs involved pulling weeds all summer long. So I would get a bucket and maybe a set of pliers if I was lucky, and I would pull weeds, little maple trees, all day from 8 until 5 with some of my friends that I could recruit to come do this lovely job with me. And my parents always said it was more about just boosting your work ethic than anything. So it was a good way just to get involved in the farm and just learn a little bit along the way. But the thing with like growing cranberries is everything is secondhand knowledge. So you like with dairy, you can go to the school to learn like more about cows. You can go to school for, that side of agriculture. But with cranberries, it's all basically just secondhand information. So growing up, I was just kind of following my dad around, and he would take me out to, in the middle of the night, we watch frost when it gets cold. So when it gets below a certain temperature, we have to run our irrigation system, and that running water protects the plants from freezing up, basically. So like early summer or, later in the fall, we would do that. My dad would take me out like on weekends, and we would get up and we would watch terrible movies until like the temperature got really cold, and we'd load up in his truck with like a cooler full of snacks and juice, and we would just drive around checking things. And that was a really special memory for me at that time. And it carried with me, up until now too. I want to start doing that with my son. And so those memories are just like those core memories that helped build my passion for what I have now. But when it came time to go to college, I really loved sports. Softball and baseball were my thing. So I went to school and I played softball for a year, and I destroyed my shoulder in the process. And then I started getting into coaching high school softball. And then I just wanted to follow that career path. So I ended up working in a minor league baseball team doing community relations. And I loved everything about that. I got to work with a lot of really cool charities. I got to work with the players and take them to events and do a lot of just build relationship with the community and just have that interaction and just that sharing of the same passions that I had. And I think that's what really helps me now is I want to share that passion that I have for cranberries with everybody. So that's really kind of what started me with Cranberry Chats. But there came a time I lived down in Iowa working for the minor league team. And every time I would pull out of my driveway after visiting home, I just had like this awful gut feeling, and I would just start crying. And I'm like, I don't want to go back to Iowa. Like, who wants to go to Iowa? No offense. but I was like, I don't want to go back. And finally it hit me after like so many months of doing this. I'm like, why am I putting myself through this? Why don't I just see if I can come back home and work full time? And I think that was always kind of, my parents were really great because they never pushed the marsh on me. They never said like, you need to come back. They didn't do that for my brother or I. And they gave us the opportunity to go out and explore the real world before deciding, if this is what you want to do, I want you to go experience what a real boss is like. I want you to experience what the real world is like, and how to take care of yourself before making the decision to come back home. And I'm so thankful that I had that opportunity to do that, because now I don't have any second guesses about where I'm at today. So I came back home and started working about 8 years ago now. And it's all been just learning secondhand again from my dad and taking things a step or two higher from where I was before, and just building that trust with him and my mom to just prove that I can do this job. I want to make this my life. I want to build, I don't want to say our empire, but like build our legacy. Maybe that's a better word, build our legacy and continue to grow that and make it bigger and better for the next generation and my kids along the way. So it's been really fun. And I'm glad everything happened the way it did, because if I didn't get involved in sports, I wouldn't have met my husband. And it would just be a completely different ball game. No pun intended.
I was going to say, pun intended or not? I think you should say building your empire, because you can call it an empire if you want to.
I mean, look at this little queen of the castle just sitting on her throne back here. She is she's part of the empire.
She's probably hopping up because she's like, no, we're calling it our empire. Like, this is what we're overseeing.
Bow down, peasants. This is our show.
I imagine life as a sports manager compared to life on a cranberry. Is it a bog? It's a marsh, right? It's a marsh.
Yeah, we call it a marsh. Out east, they call it bogs. Here in the Midwest, it's a marsh.
But I imagine life on the cranberry marsh versus life as a sports manager are two completely very different things. So can you walk us through a day in the life of a cranberry grower?
I hate this question. Like, there's no days are
the same.
Yeah. So for me right now, I'm mostly a stay-at-home mom. Like, my son is my job. which is great. I love it. But that was a hard transition for me to get into just because I was so actively involved and in the thick of it. So when I am working, it depends on what season we're in, I guess, because there's cranberries are a perennial plant, so they grow all year round, and we're busy all year round. So there's no break. Oh, sorry, there's no break in the action for us. So I could be driving dump truck for the day. I could be, during harvest, I'm out in the elements, picking up cranberries. Now I'm mowing lawns a lot more than I used to. So in the tractors, just doing a little bit of everything. Sometimes I'm in the shop or I'm doing book work, which is god awful. I'm not great with numbers at all, but that's kind of the role that things are going in for me, is just kind of managing the business instead of being so actively involved in the manual labor like I was before. So learning how to bookkeep is really hard for me. Like that's not my specialty. It's a lot of learning on the go, I think, especially for me. Again, I don't have like a mechanical background. I'm not a welder. I'm not a fabricator. And like, you just kind of pick those traits up as you go. So long story short, it's a different thing every day, and it's always an adventure because nothing ever goes the way you want it to.
Exactly. Can you just, for people that have no knowledge of cranberries, can you explain what cranberries are, like the growing process, that whole general overview?
Yeah, so cranberries are the official state fruit of Wisconsin, and they grow so well in this area because they need a very specific climate. They need a very specific soil, which we have. So cranberries grow in a very sandy, acidic soil, so we don't have like that nutrient-rich soil that like row crop farmers have. It's literally sand. It's white sand that you find at the beach is what it is, and cranberries love it. So they are native to North America. They're one of the few fruits that are. And again, they're a perennial plant, so they're growing all year round. But when we do plant, there's two different ways that we plant cranberries. So they're also a self-propagating plant. And what that means is if you cut the vines down, they grow on a long running vine. So it's kind of like a grapevine, but a little bit more dense. And if you mow those down to the ground and collect them and put them in hay bales, basically, and then you shake those bales onto fresh sand and disc them in, water and fertilize them, they'll continue to grow from those trimmings. And the vines that we did mow down to the little nubs, they will continue to grow from just those. So they're always growing and just repopulating themselves. So it takes about 2 to 3 years after they've been planted or mowed to produce a sizable crop. So it is a pretty quick turnaround, but we only do this planting process on a couple of acres every year. So we're not redoing everything all at once. And the vines themselves will grow and reproduce fruit for many years. So if you take care of them, they'll take care of you, basically. So that's kind of our spring agenda. The plants will come out of dormancy in spring once we start getting like 75-degree days. Once the weather starts warming up, they start coming out of dormancy, they start waking up, and there's already buds developed on the plants from last season. So those little tiny buds will start to grow and open up probably like June, and then around July, like the 4th of July, we start getting blossoms, and then those blossoms turn into the fruit, and then it's just all growing game from July until they're harvested in October. So during the summer months, that's actually kind of like our slower season, and during that time, we're just keeping them hydrated, applying fertilizers throughout the year as needed. And when I talk about a cranberry bed, that's kind of like the plot that the cranberry vines are growing in, and those are dug down into the ground a little ways. Because we are in a marshy area, we have a very high water table, so we dig those beds down into the ground so the cranberry roots are closer to the water, so it's always just damp there. And so that's kind of the spring and summer, and then fall is all about harvest. So cranberries are similar to apples in the sense that they need cold temperatures to turn color. So the way that the cranberry itself grows is on the vine, the vines produce little uprights. And on these uprights is where the fruit grows. So there's a layer of foliage, a layer of leaves on top, and then below that is where the fruit grows. So you can have anywhere from 1 to like 5 or 6 berries off of a single upright. And the berries are grown closer to the leaves or like closer to the open. That fruit will be exposed to sunlight in the summer. And like me, I'm a little pasty, so I get sunburned really easy, and so do the fruit. And that's what starts that color change happening. And then as it's exposed to more sunlight and colder temperatures, they turn a deeper, darker red. And then there's fruit that kind of grows underneath everything. That's the last to turn color. So the ripeness of a fruit isn't determined by the color of its skin. It's all about the seeds inside. So once the seeds turn from a green to a dark brown color, that's when you know that the cranberry is ripe. So it's all about what's inside that counts.
Yes,
And
I love that.
the message of the day. And inside the cranberry, there's little air pockets. And that's what allows the cranberries to float to the surface of the water. So that's when we harvest. It's just easier for us to use water. Okay, so let's talk about harvest. This is a hard part to explain because our equipment is so specialized that no other farmers use this kind of equipment. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go over to my Instagram page, and I tried to show all of the equipment on some reels this year. Cat's coming back. We start off by applying like 6 to 8 inches of water into the beds, and we use all of the water is used and recycled, so it's not going to waste. People like to think that it's wasted, and I don't understand how you can waste water, but that's a different anyway. So we use 6 to 8 inches of water, and we have this tractor called the harrow, and this was invented by cranberry growers for cranberry growers. So every farm that you go to is going to have a completely different harrow than like your next door neighbors. And this tractor has metal rakes on the front and on the back of this tractor. And those rakes just act as, she's like, what are you doing? Why aren't you petting me? These rakes drop down to the ground and they just comb the berries right off of the vines. So it's no different than brushing your hair. It's a very gentle process. And he will make one lap down. So the bed itself is like a long rectangle. So he makes one lap down, and then there's metal ramps for the tractor on the opposite end that he started on. So he'll drive up out of the bed on those metal ramps, and then he'll come back in the bed on the other side using those ramps, and then make another pass coming back and then drive out. So that way he's not making turns inside of the bed, and like that pressure of turning on wet vines will tear things up. So that's why we use the ramps to just go in and out and make a straight pass. Does that make sense?
Cranberry.
No. So that's another reason why we use water during this process too, is the water will kind of disperse the vines, and it's not a direct pressure from the tractor onto the vines themselves. So that water acts as like a buffer between the tractor and the vines. She's just trying to be the star of the show here. So once we get all the berries off of the vines, we'll add another like 24 inches of water to the existing water. And then that will flood up all of the cranberries, so it gets them up out of the vines and floating onto the surface of the water. And then we take 2 tractors and a corral, and then we just kind of circle all of the cranberries into one corner of the bed. And then we come in with our cleanup crew, and that involves the berry pump, which is basically just like a big vacuum cleaner that cleans the fruit out in the water using more water, and it just sucks the berries up out of the water, travels up a tube, and then it will go down a ramp, and then all of the fruit will go into the back of a semi-truck, and that semi-truck, for us anyway, goes straight to the ocean spray plant where it's cleaned and sorted, and then it goes right into a cooler. So by the time that the fruit is picked off of the vines and into the cooler at Ocean Spray, it's usually about a 48-hour process. So it's a pretty quick turnaround, just because of the extreme weather temperature, like just how drastic the temperature can change in Wisconsin in October. So we want to get the fruit off and in the cooler as fast as we can. And it takes us about like 4 or 5 weeks to do our entire harvest process. We do have 250 acres of just cranberries, so it takes a little bit of time. And after that fruit is all picked up, We come in and we drain the water, push it back to where it came from, and then just move down the lines. Right now, we're working on renovations for the spring. So as soon as, like, we have our renovations planned out a couple years in advance. So we know what's like on the chopping block for the next 2 years. And after that bed that we know is going to be renovated in the spring, after that final harvest, we will actually burn the vines up, and then we'll dig up all of the vines and all that old soil, push it to the sides, and then we haul all of that out with dump trucks, and we will save that dirt for any like road repairs or any just like repair projects that we might need. So we're reusing that. And then in the winter, once all of that dug out stuff has kind of frozen over, we will load up the same dump trucks with fresh sand, and we'll haul that sand in and dump that, get it to grade. And that takes quite a while to fill that back up with fresh sand. And then once it kind of starts thawing out in the spring, like in April or May, we'll make sure it's completely flat and to grade. We'll put in drain tile, put our irrigation system back in, and then we'll start planting. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. And when it gets really cold, I know it's a lot. I'm talking for like 20 minutes about this. There's so much to talk about. In the winter, we also use water as our advantage when it gets really cold, like below zero and windy temperatures. We'll flood everything up to like a harvest level again and wait for that water to freeze, and that ice that forms, we'll pull any remaining water off after like 7 or 10 days, and that ice will kind of just sit on top of the vines and act as like an insulation from any cold temperatures, because again, there's buds already formed for next year's crop already set. So we don't want to freeze those off and then, not have a crop for the following year. So we do that process a couple of times and build that layer of ice up to we feel comfortable like with like 8 inches of ice by like January, February. So that's what we feel comfortable with. And we just leave that sit all winter long until it starts to melt in the spring. And then the vines start coming out of dormancy after all the ice melts. So there's everything in a nutshell.
That was incredible.
That is amazing. And it's just things that you don't even necessarily think about, right? Like we talked about this a couple episodes ago. You don't know what you don't know. And there is just so much that goes into it that I think people just don't realize the technology and the thought process and the planning that has to go behind it. And that is just so incredibly interesting. And now that we have a better idea of, okay, this is kind of like, as you said, this simplified version, right? Of, okay, this is a very simplified version of what goes on, how it goes on. And you even described a little bit more of how it gets from your marsh into kind of like the ocean spray facility then. So then once it's there, how do they decide what cranberries are going to be used for what products? And or is that like start with you guys and you at the farm have to grow a certain type for different products?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all of our fruit goes in for processing. So your juices, your sweet and dried cranberries, sauces, that kind of thing. So we don't really get a say in like what specific product it goes into necessarily. It just goes in for processing. All the fruit, it tastes the same. It all tastes the same, basically. So there's different varieties of cranberries, but they all to like you guys, it's all the same. But for the fresh fruit that is harvested, there's only, I want to say like 5 or less % of all cranberries grown are for fresh fruit, and that's a completely different harvest process in itself. It like that fresh fruit harvest is, I'm using this as like the most simple way. It's like more gentle. So there's not as much equipment being used, whereas like, because it needs to be in pristine condition, like you're using that fruit for like the visual side of things. Whereas, the fruit that we're sending in to be processed, it can have like a little dent. It's like the dent and bent section of the grocery store, and that's okay. Like it's all good. So yeah, like it's just the harvest process is a little bit different from fresh fruit versus processed, but it's all the same. And like when we're sending stuff in, we are getting paid based off of the size, the firmness, and the color of our fruit. So we can't have like fruit that's if it's not red enough, it doesn't count towards our like overall pay. If the size is too small, gets thrown out, and then that fruit that they get thrown out will actually come back to our farm, and we lease land out to Ocean Spray as well, so they will spread that fruit in an open field because we can't use it for anything else anyway, and they spread it out, and it's just like compost. So it's all being reused somehow.
So cool.
Man, yeah, agriculture is so cool. And no matter what way you were involved, there are just so many ways that things are reused, recycled, and just nothing really ever goes to waste. And I'm just, yeah, I am learning so much about the technology that does go into it. And it's not really things that I would think of, but kind of building on that, we wanted to talk about, or more so ask, about some common misconceptions about cranberry farming. And one of them was being grown in a bog, which you already kind of explained that process, right? That is just a part of the process to gather the berries. But a fun one, you probably already know what's coming because you talk about it a lot on social media, is spiders. I don't
Oh my
God. I need to hear what are these spiders people are asking about? Are they real? Is it a conspiracy? What's going on?
I hate this TikTok so much. I'm like, of all the things that could blow up about the cranberry industry, it was this one stupid thing. Not that it's a stupid question. I'm glad you asked it, because the more people that know this, the less people are going to ask me. So there was a TikTok that blew up saying that all cranberry growers use wolf spiders as like their pesticide, right? Like, I hate spiders. It's not for me. Everyone's like, oh, what about the spiders? I'm like, I wouldn't work here if we had thousands of wolf spiders. So they so where wolf spiders are like native predators is more of where they use this technique, and it's a very small amount of people. Like, I'm talking a handful of people that have used this. People that have small areas are using this. But yeah, there are some places that release, like they buy a bunch of wolf spiders. I don't know where you get wolf spiders. You have to go on the black market. I don't know why you would want to touch them. I don't know, but they throw them out there, and yeah, they eat insects because they eat native pests. It's a native predator, so they're doing their job, and it's great. I'm happy that it works for them. But the thing was that people didn't like is during harvest, when you add that water, all these spiders they're not gonna stay in the water. They got to come out. Where they go, I don't know. I don't want to know. Nobody knows. But yeah, so that just blew up, and now every time I post a video, it's like, what about the spiders? Why aren't you showing us the spiders? One, I wouldn't be out there if there were spiders. Two, if I did have spiders, I would be posting that, because you know how many views I could get showing cranberry spiders? No, long story short, no, we don't have them. But I kind of wish we did now, just so I could use them as clickbait.
No, spiders are terrifying, like you said, and I'm so glad that's not the case in most places. It wouldn't affect me in any capacity, but I'm glad for you and most cranberry farmers. That's just not something that you have to deal with, because
that was
I know
so dramatic. I'm sorry.
No, hey, everyone has their thing, and for me as well, spiders are freaky, and wolf spiders are ginormous.
The worst.
I would not want to be working somewhere that they're just casually like hanging out,
chilling.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, for everyone, we know that
broke out in hives talking about that, you guys.
So you are more glad than anyone that this is a misconception, for the most part.
Very much.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's incredible for you that you don't have to deal with that. It's just something that I never even would have thought of. So I think it was just like a fun conspiracy theory that probably got started somewhere, but kind of not switching gears necessarily, but going back to kind of the ocean spray comment that you mentioned. So you've talked about it on your social, right? And it's, I think what most people think of when they think of cranberries is ocean spray. And so you said your products go to Ocean Spray. And with that, I would love to have you describe a little bit more about kind of what does Ocean Spray entail, right? So we know it's a cooperative, and we know, ladies in ag, what a cooperative is. But for a lot of people, they may not understand what that means, of like what it means to be a part of the Ocean Spray cooperative, and describing that a little bit more. And is it just farmers in Wisconsin, or who all gets to be a part of this?
Yeah, you're asking really great questions today. So Ocean Spray is a grower-owned co-op, so that means that the farmers basically own the brand. So we get all of the profits from the products that we sell, which is great. There are over 700 family growers a part of the Ocean Spray Cooperative across the country, and even into Canada. And there's growers down in Chile as well. So we're taking over, and it's really cool. And so we get to work really closely with. There's different board members a part of Ocean Spray. So there's a grower board. Okay, so there's different tiers to Ocean Spray, right? So you have like your CEO and your executives that run the company, right? And then there are like a board of executives that work closely with a board of growers. So everyone that's involved in Ocean Spray that grows for Ocean Spray gets to vote who they want on the grower board. And every region has someone elected from the region. So like there's a couple of Wisconsin growers that are on this board. There's growers from out east, out west, like in Washington, Oregon, that area, and Canada. So every region has some people that are elected to this board, and they work really closely with the executives of Ocean Spray. So if we ever have an issue, if we have something that we want upper management to know about, that we have concerns with or praises with, we can just talk to those grower council members and say, hey, this is what's up, relay that to, the higher ups. And it's really great because there's such an open communication between the executives and the growers that, like me as a little peon, I can reach out to like our grower relations person and say, hey, do you have anything that you want me to promote? Like, what are different ideas that I can do? And they'll get back to me right away. Or I'll say like, hey, like, is this okay to talk about? And they're like, yep, absolutely, go ahead. So it's really great. And like this summer, Ocean Spray reached out to growers from across the country and asked a handful of us to fly out to DC and talk to our state, like congressmen and representatives, like, and to go to that level and talk as a farmer to, like congressmen and talk about issues that we're having within our state, was really cool. And to be selected as one of 4 people to do that for the state of Wisconsin, like little old me, I know nothing about that kind of stuff. So to do that and for them to trust growers to do that, I think is really awesome. So I have nothing but good things to say about Ocean Spray, and keep your eye out for the new juice labels that are rolling out.
And on the topic of Ocean Spray, you referenced a little bit about it being made up of over 700 family farms. I feel like, especially in the food space, there's this misconception or thought that if you are purchasing from a well-known big brand such as Ocean Spray, you may not be supporting, your local family farms. Can you debunk that a little bit and just explain more about how that obviously might not be the case?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're seeing like a huge rebrand with Ocean Spray right now too, where they're putting their grower first on their marketing, which again, I love seeing that. So when you're grabbing a juice or you're grabbing a bag of craisins and you flip it over, you're seeing like the grower and their story. And to see, connect the product with a family, especially, I think that's great. I mean, if I'm looking at not necessarily, cranberries, if I'm looking at butter, for example, and I see, that it's a co-op versus just like normal. And I know I understand, but if I see that it's a co-op versus not, like I'm going to go with a co-op. So to see that, I think is a really great marketing move on their end.
And on the topic of food, since food is more of like the space that I'm in, could you talk more about with cranberries? I think, cranberry juice or cranberry jelly or sauce on Thanksgiving Day, but what else is there to cranberries beyond just Thanksgiving and cranberry juice?
Oh my gosh. So funny because I'm just running a cranberry recipe showdown on my Instagram page right now. And I got over 60 different recipes sent to me. I like did a plea and I was like, you guys send me your cranberry recipes. I don't care if you've made it before, if you just found it on on the internet, send me a cranberry recipe. I want to see them. And I had different categories set. So I had an appetizer round, a side dish, main dish, dessert, and drinks. And they all just sent me these different recipes. And we're voting to see which one you like best right now. But there's so many different ways that you can enjoy cranberries, not just around the holidays. And that's something that I'm kind of trying to push as well, to show different ways that you can use cranberries throughout the year, because it is a seasonal fruit, so you can't buy the fresh fruit all year round, but they do freeze really well. So if you are a fresh cranberry lover, go out and stock up right now. Stock up, throw them in your freezer. They will last frozen for over a year, or in your refrigerator for like 6 to 8 weeks. So stock up, use them while you can. But they are so okay. All the health benefits that cranberries have, amazing. They have more antioxidants than blueberries. They're great for heart health, gut health, urinary tract health, like your oral health. There's new studies saying that they help your memory. So they're great for your brain. Packed full of vitamin C, just all these good things, and they're considered one of the few like true superfruits. So anytime that you can incorporate cranberries in like smoothies, there is a pure cranberry juice if you are worried about the sugar. They're low in sugar too. Let's throw that out there. So they're very tart. They're a very tart fruit. And so there is a little bit of added sugar anytime you're consuming processed cranberries, just to make it more palatable for the general public. But there is a pure cranberry juice where there's no sugar added. And I've always said, like, with all of the health benefits that cranberries have to offer, if you can do like a shot of grass or wheat or like that other weird stuff, you can handle a shot of cranberry juice, and it does way more for you than I think anything else will. So to add that into smoothies, or to dilute it with water or whatever kind of beverage you want, vodka's good too. Like, just saying. Any way that you can get that pure cranberry juice into your system, into your blood, you'll be immune to everything. Throw craisins like on your oatmeal and on your salads. Baking with cranberries is really great too. So anytime not knocking blueberries, I love blueberries, but you can swap cranberries for blueberries, and they hold their shape a lot better in like breads and muffins, and they don't bleed like a blueberry does as well. So they're great to bake with. Cook them down into a sauce, slap that on. So like ribs or like a roast or something. Delicious. Use them all year round. Use them for whatever you want. I could probably find some way to use them in any recipe if I wanted to.
You are blowing my mind with all this. And this is now a wellness podcast. Dr. Crayons are good for you.
Yes.
Come on, have one.
Fight off those UTIs with some vodka crayons. I support that message.
So, okay, my last question. I have to know your opinion as a cranberry grower. On Thanksgiving Day, are you cranberry from a can, like jiggling on a plate, like the jelly cranberry, or do you prefer homemade cranberry sauce on Thanksgiving Day?
Okay, you want to know something fun? You can shotgun a can of whole berry cranberry sauce.
Can we see video proof from you doing that?
Yeah, I think I did a TikTok. I think that was one of my first TikToks that I've ever done. I cut my lip to shit because you know how hard it is to punch a hole in an aluminum can like that. Getting back to the question, I'm a
to resurface this on your social medias, because I think you just to resurface.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig back through the archives to find that, because that was pre-child, so this was a little while ago. But I'm a big fan of homemade sauce. I gotta go with a whole berry homemade sauce. That's my jam. But I love the canned stuff too. I'm never gonna turn down cranberry sauce of any kind.
Love
Well,
it.
we'll have to head to your social media to get a good recipe for some sauce.
Yes, I'm really excited to see this recipe thing shake out, because there is a lot of recipes that involve cranberry and brie cheese. There's like puff pastry things that you can make with that, and everyone is sending me these brie recipes, and I'm like, you guys, in this economy, I can't afford to buy all that brie cheese. Like, can you just do like a shredded cheddar cheese or something? But I'm really excited to see that all come together because brie and cheese is good. I love it.
Bree, my dog, is in, like, she's up on the bed right here, and she's looking, like, speaking of cooking in the kitchen and cooking, what is cooking for you? What's coming up down the pipes for Cranberry Chat? What can we look for you on social media? Where can people find you? All that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I have some fun things coming up this holiday season. I try to really pump up the content, and I keep an eye out. There's some fun stuff coming. I can't talk about it. I hate when people say that, but I can't talk about it. So, but you can find me on all platforms over at Cranberry Chats. I also have a podcast with a dairy farmer from Wisconsin, Becca. Our podcast is called Forward Farming, and we have new episodes come out every Tuesday. And we also post it on YouTube as well. So if you're more of a visual person, check us out on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So that's where you can find me. If you want to learn more about cranberry spiders or see some of the harvest equipment or just see a little bit more visual what the cranberries look like, I'd love to have you. And if you have questions, feel free to shoot me a DM and pick my brain a little. Just don't ask me if I have spiders because I'm still in hives about it.
I highly recommend. So because I'm also from Wisconsin, but Amber and I live in very different parts of Wisconsin. Where I live, we have more of the rich soil for row crops and stuff, but where she lives is more of like the central sands-ish. Well, you're not really central, you're like
West
western.
Central. Yeah. I live in the swamp.
Regardless.
Just call me Shrek.
On the map, that's where you are. But anyway, like I've always heard about cranberries and stuff, but I didn't really know a ton about them until I followed Amber, and it's just so fascinating to see such a niche part of agriculture. So I highly recommend, whether you're a foodie who wants to learn more about cranberries and how it can be used in your food, or if you're in agriculture and you just want to learn about something new in agriculture, I highly recommend following Amber. And Amber, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. It's going to be so fun to launch it like right before Thanksgiving when everyone's getting ready to enjoy their cranberries.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, and thank you for asking so many good questions. It's very refreshing to have such like a wide variety to talk about. So thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
That was such a good conversation. Oh my gosh. Like I said earlier, or like I said, I grew up like cranberries they're a couple hours from for me, and it's just we would drive past them going to the Twin Cities and like going up north and stuff, and I never knew anything about it, and that's just so cool.
I agree. Just almost mind blown, right? And sometimes it's just so cool that we have the opportunity to know women like this because growing up in ag, you think, oh, I know everything about how food is grown. And I just learned so much that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I'm going to go stock up on cranberries. Like, for real, like the bagged fresh ones and put them in my freezer. That's so smart. I know you could do that. And I'm going to make smoothies. Like, I had no idea they stored well. And that makes sense why you can't find them other than this time of year.
Yes, go stock up for all your cooking stuff for like the entire year.
Oh man, I love it. And also, the last portion of this episode is diving into our weekly obsessions. And I feel like I can say, as a group, new weekly obsession is cranberries. But individually, I would love to dive into our weekly obsessions. And Shmem, you are first. Let's hear what are you obsessed with lately?
Okay, my weekly obsession is so first it's a book called Lessons in Chemistry, but the show is just recently came out like a month or so ago on Apple, and it is so good. It combines my two favorite things of science and woman empowerment. So, and like woman, like being like, yeah, I deserve to be in all the places and all the spaces. So that's my obsession because we've been watching the show every week. And first of all, I recommend reading the book before watching the show. Read the book first, then watch the show. But I know yours is also a book.
Ooh, yes, I'm just so excited for my weekly obsession. And honestly, as we're recording this, it should be here any minute. So for all my book talk girlies, my weekly obsession is the second book of the Fourth Wing series, Iron Flame, officially released this week. And I pre-ordered mine a couple weeks ago, and it is delivering, like my time frame should be right now. And so the second book of the series, Iron Flame, I'm going to have my hands on it. And I'm just so excited to get back into my fantasy book reading era. Oh, but I could talk about it forever, so I'll cut myself off just in case no one else is booked on Girlies. But Haley, are you in the same realm of a weekly obsession or something completely different?
Yeah, I am. This is so stupid, but literally all I can think of so much. I discovered this live feed on of Christmas bookstore instrumental fireplace sounds.
I love
I
it. We'll link it in the show notes.
And in our stories, you sent it to me, and I'm not ready for the Christmas vibe yet, but when I'm ready for the Christmas vibe, that will be playing. Okay, well, thank you for listening to this episode.
And if you enjoyed it, of course, please show us the love. We know we're still growing, we're still figuring it out, we're still evolving. But any questions you'll have, reach out to us on social. Again, if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe, follow, whatever it is for whatever platform you're on. Rate us, leave reviews. We are open to all the feedback, and we just can't thank y'all enough for the support.
Bye.
Bye.